Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this cold and rainy November evening. We're delighted that you can join us. I see that we've got Woo123 joining us from a very soggy Scotland. Welcome to you all. So this webinar we've been really excited about. We are delighted that Elaine Ford is going to be joining us, and you're going to be hearing all about Elaine's background. She's an exceptional young person, and I want to give a big shout out to Matt Jessup of Crossway Primary School, who introduced Elaine and I to each other. And we'll learn all about Elaine in just a short moment. But I'm not going to be joined, I'm not going to be on my own. I'm also joined by another exceptional person. Claudia, welcome to the webinar, my co-host.
Hi, everyone. So, I'm super excited because this evening is going to be extra special because this evening we'll take a journey together, not just through digital tools, but through immersive storytelling set in the heart of nature. So, if you're curious about how immersive natural experience can spark connection, inspire reflection, and transform your classroom practice and more, you're in the right place. So I'm super excited for this evening. Yay!
Oh, what a lovely intro, Claudia. And we are so pleased that so many of you have signed up for this webinar. Please do put in the chat where you're from, because we love to give you a shout out. And don't forget that you will receive an email after the webinar is finished, and it'll include the slides, contact details for Elaine, and all the links that we've mentioned. Hi, that's Lisa joining us from London. Lovely to see you, Lisa. So I was lucky enough that Elaine came to our attention by Matt, who said that Elaine had been making these most wonderful immersive experiences, working at the intersection of wildlife, tech, and art. And I first saw Elaine's website, which is the Planetary Wild website, and I was just like, I need to meet this person. I can't believe what she's doing. It's just so aligned with our thinking about how we can really focus on real world contexts at a time when people are quite naturally uncomfortable about AI and computer generated images. We need to remind ourselves that we need to make sure that we've got a connection with real world concepts, real world contexts, and of course, wildlife. And this is where I think it's a really good time to introduce you all to the wonderful, exceptional Elaine. Elaine, welcome to the webinar. How are you?
Hi, so good to be here. It's great to meet you all. Thank you so much for the very kind introduction as well.
Oh, it's all true. You've got such a wonderful, rich background. It's just incredible how I looked at one of your videos, which was about understanding how slime and art can be combined together. It was just fascinating.
True curiosity for sure.
So funny. So more people are joining. We've got Alistair joining us from Nottingham. Hi, Alistair. Thank you for joining us. But Elaine, tell us a bit more about yourself and how this journey has unfolded to lead you to this really, really unique and exciting place.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some slides prepared. I'd love to start sharing and show you what we're going to chat through, a little bit about the background, and also share some stories from the field. So let me get started on.
Brilliant. Please do. Great. I've got those. I can add those to the stage. So I'm just going to remove Claudia and myself and take it away.
All right. Brilliant. Well, first off, I'm really excited to be here for this session to talk about something that matters to every single one of us, which is how we reconnect with the living world and how we can use immersive technology to bring us closer to nature and not separate from it. So I grew up in Scotland, and the forests and hills and wild coastlines, and being outside was the place where I felt most alive. And I learned early on that nature isn't just beautiful scenery, but it's an essential part of who we are. And when we lose that connection, something in us just goes quiet and doesn't quite feel right. So today I want to open that door back up and take you through what it's really like to film VR in the wild, how 360 nature stories come to life, and I'll be sharing a few behind the scenes shots from the Okavango Delta on my Connected Landscapes expedition. We'll also look at why immersive nature experiences matter so much for young people right now, and some simple ways that you can create your own content and own 360 immersive field trips. And we'll end with some practical ideas and ideas for classroom projects too. So just a little bit about where I'm coming from. My roots are really between the visual arts and biological sciences. I studied fine art, biology, ecology, and tropical biodiversity, which might sound like a very unusual combination, but they actually share like so many similarities. So they're really like about curiosity and that deep observation. And both fields really teach you to really look and really see what's there, like from the way that the light is shifting to how animals are communicating through movement and the tiny relationships that hold ecosystems together. Art asks questions and science asks questions, but really they're just different ways to try and understand the world. I've always been super fascinated by natural phenomena and the sensuous abilities of other species, how birds can read magnetic fields, and how water holds memory, how plants sense touch, and how elephants communicate through vibrations. And that curiosity really shapes everything that I do, and it's really the heart of my work today. So it's like using technology not as a barrier, but as a way to heighten like our perception and help us feel part of that living world again. And that's really like why I set up Planet Rewild, which is an immersive storytelling initiative. You'll see on this slide like some collaborations and fieldwork from some of the experience and projects which I've been involved in from the art, sciences, and in the outdoors. But let's travel to the Okavango Delta, one of the most biodiverse systems on Earth, a place where elephants, wild dogs, hippos, and leopards move through constantly shifting mosaic of water and dry land. I filmed my VR project here as part of the Connected Landscapes expedition. This was during the dry season when you could actually travel by car without needing a scuba on top. We camped actually beside this river in two-person tents, and everything is solar powered. At dawn, the golden light from the sun like spilled across the surface, and you could see hippo heads rising up and down in a kind of rhythm. These same hippos walked through the camp at night. There's nothing quite like hearing one breathing beside you in your tent and you're thinking, this feels pretty cozy. But at the same time, at the night, there was a leopard that came right past the tent. You could hear its breathing, like right next to me. There's just like a thin layer of canvas separating. I stayed very, very still and also considered my life choices at that point. But thinking about that, a torch is an essential piece of kit for your fieldwork, not just for seeing, but for politely informing wildlife that you exist. No one wants to accidentally surprise a large mammal. Talking to scientists working in the Okavango Delta was eye-opening. Huge areas of the delta remain largely not yet studied. Species and animal movements are still being discovered from migrations, dispersal, and seasonal rhythms. There's something so powerful in knowing that there are still places on Earth unexplored where mystery lives. And maybe some of your students will be the ones to map out those rhythms one day. Out in the Delta, water is everything. It's the real architect of life. This is a time lapse of the Delta from space, using satellite imagery throughout the seasons. And the white that you can see are the clouds. During the dry season, wildlife clusters around these shrinking water sources. And working alongside scientists, I used remote 360 rigs to document how different species move through these areas. This region has the highest population of African elephants. So for students, it becomes a living example of resource pressure, hierarchy, and adaptation. At the waterholes, we could observe from a distance family groups taking turns, young elephants learning etiquette, and matriarchs coordinating movement. But the story doesn't stop with wildlife. People live in the same corridors that elephants use. In nearby villages, elephants regularly walk through people's gardens. I actually met a woman recovering from a serious injury after being knocked over by one. So this opens up important conversations for students. Conservation isn't just about saving animals, it's about understanding shared landscapes, cultural context, safety, and long-term relationships between people and nature. It's an ecosystem of perspectives and not just a single problem to solve. One of my favorite species to film was the African painted dog, also known as the wild dog. They're super social, brilliant hunters. I traveled out to their den and set 360 cameras from inside the research vehicle. You can see just on the bottom right there. It was just before their evening rally, and this is like their daily burst of dancing, circling, and talking with one another. It's amazing to watch how they communicate. They also have this behavior where they sneeze, and the sneezing provides this kind of like voting system to see if they're going to move to another destination or go out for a hunt. So I placed a 360 rig on the ground just before. At first, the puppies approached like very cautiously. Then after some time, they boldly started to come forward, and then they decided the camera was obviously a chew toy. One pounced on the camera, and then the others followed very enthusiastically. The camera body didn't survive, but the memory cards did, which is a small miracle. And I've never been so delighted to lose equipment before. This is really great in VR because you're suddenly part of that pack. You're surrounded by curious wild dog pups exploring something new in the world. And it's a brilliant way for students to observe behavior, risk-taking, and social learning up close. In taking these 360 films at this space, the camp I stayed in was pretty wild. There were lions mating nearby and leopards occasionally in the evening drinking from a bowl, and a curious civet visiting the dinner table. And in the evening, the elephants would sway through the paths. They were gorgeously noisy. But in the Delta, resilience and fragility really live side by side. You feel that whole ecosystem breathing in relationship, animals responding to water, water shaping land, and land showing people and shaping how people live. It's a reminder that conservation isn't about isolated species. It's about the web that holds everything together. So why does 360 matter for young minds? 360 immersive media and VR are powerful because they do three things that traditional media doesn't. One, they activate curiosity before content. So students can explore intuitively as you look all around in all directions. They spot details that you might not have pointed out, and they ask different questions as they shift from receiving information to investigating it. So they become the explorer. They build empathy through perspectives. Being inside that pack of wild dogs or up close with an elephant eating feels fundamentally different from watching a clip. You're there in that moment with the animal, sharing its home, and you can feel it. We process these immersive scenes more like lived experiences than instruction. And this is why many studies show significantly higher engagement and retention with VR compared to passive learning. And there's a growing, inspiring body of research about the benefits of nature VR for our mental health as well. Immersive experiences also create embodied learning, where you're not just absorbing facts, you're experiencing a place. And your attention sharpens and your senses activate. The information roots itself through emotion and presence. And as someone who works across biology and art, this intersection is my favorite space. Perception, emotion, and memory working together to deepen understanding. And from my own experience and what I see in others, when people start to notice that diversity of the natural world, their world starts to become richer, and you see more depth, more connections and relationships and stories in people, places, species, and systems. So let's get practical. Wherever your school is, there's maybe a landscape worth exploring. It might be a field, a courtyard, a city park, or even the cracks in the wall where moss decides to thrive. So you don't need dramatic scenery to spark a sense of wonder. You just need that shift in attention. So a phone or a 360 camera is really just that curiosity amplifier, a tool that nudges you and your students to really look, notice, and investigate. So there's a few things I've put for like observation exercises that you can encourage students to document, to look at the sensory richness of an ordinary space. So ideas from like looking at textures and patterns of bark and lichen. The sounds are really important that come into the scene, from crunching leaves to the birds to insects, and also the sound of the wind and people chatting and footsteps as well. Then there's light and shadow and how atmosphere changes across the day, and the relationship, looking at who depends on whom. When people begin to notice like these details, I feel like something comes alive, and that shift in perception builds connection, and connection is what fuels care, curiosity, and conservation thinking. So let's move to some prompts that can help students build meaning around what they've captured. So perspective and presence. What does the place feel like from ground level? So you're thinking about like the heights that you're filming, whether it's a tripod at ground level, so you can have a point of view from an eye of a beetle or a spider, or you have a very like high tripod and you're thinking about the oldest tree in the school grounds. And then if you look at a small space, it's considering like how many species can be there and what's thriving there. Are we documenting nature or just someone's experience within it? Because the story often lies in that interaction. And also looking at, why does this habitat matter to the school or the neighborhood? What stories or memories live in this place? Here are a few grounded and field-tested reminders, some of which I've definitely learned the hard way. Sound is half the story. And many phones and 360 cameras work really well. You don't need high-end kit, and ThingLink has a range of apps to help. And it's also keeping movement minimal when you're filming in 360. Like stationary cameras feel much more immersive. A big movement or movement in different directions can make viewers feel a bit seasick, especially in that VR headset. And it's super important if you're thinking about doing 360 or aerial or using a drone, like the hippo at dawn footage, you want to be going in that just one steady direction. And also, most importantly, prepare for the worst and hope for the best for the weather. Waterproof bags, boots with grip, weights for tripod, especially if it's windy or you're planning to use a tripod at full height, because they can fall over. And I definitely have learned that the hard way with lenses falling over. But you also want to have, it's useful to have a little microfiber cloth to keep the lenses clean as well. And you want to minimize noise, like both visual and literal. Soft light sources are easier to work with rather than high contrasting light. You'll find certain environments have softer light, or some will have likely more harsher, depending on the weather, of course. In forests, you'll often find that really high contrasting light, which can be tricky for the 360 cameras with fisheye lenses, as they pick up that different light information on either side, which can make the stitching quite difficult. Also, a note to switch off camera lights and any external equipment noise that you can control so it doesn't impact the scenes that you're capturing. Some cameras often have like beeps, or they have red or blue lights, and that can impact the scene that you're recording. So I'd love to talk more about why immersive nature storytelling works and why it's so important. So we're living in a moment where ecosystems are under pressure and young people are spending less time outdoors than more than ever. So reconnection matters on both sides of that. Time in nature, we know, sharpens our focus, boosts our creativity, and supports well-being. And this is the foundation of science, art, and critical thinking. And our senses are the bridge. These are our most immediate links to the more than human world, and immersive media amplifies them. VR can place a learner inside a forest at dawn, at eye level with an elephant, or surrounded by playful wild dog puppies. And suddenly the natural world isn't so abstract. It's something that their body remembers and not just their mind. And that's the core of my work, helping people feel part of the living world rather than standing outside of it. I spent years filming and exploring in remote ecosystems from rainforests to deserts and from mountains to deltas. And what I've learned is this: we're all born explorers and creators. In education, you're shaping the next generation of scientists, artists, problem solvers, and conservationists. As Jane Goodall reminds us, what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Immersive experiences can spark that difference. When a student steps inside a landscape, even digitally, something shifts. They begin to understand the world is alive, interconnected, and worth protecting. And my hope is that these tools support you in inspiring that connection. So if you ever want help creating immersive content or bringing these experiences into your own school or organization, that's exactly what I'm working on and what I'm building with Planet Rewild. So thanks so much, and I'd love to pass you back to Louise and Claudia.
Oh my goodness.
Well done, well done. That was amazing. Oh my God. So
It's
much food for
brilliant.
thought, right? Oh my God. Yeah.
And we had the pleasure of kind of seeing you talking about this behind the scenes, because
Yeah.
people watching only saw your slides, but you just spoke with so much passion and so much authenticity, and it's gold. Everything you just said is absolute gold for education when we're thinking about our learners being connected and how to really make value out of VR experiences as well, because we see them. Well, you probably heard me say before, we could do a webinar when ThingLinks go bad. But when you see immersive learning done so beautifully and so well, it just sings. And this is why we do what we do. So on behalf of all of the ThingLink team, and I'm sure everyone watching, just thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful overview. And I know Claudia's dying to talk now.
Yeah, because I've got some stuff to say. Well, it's just the highlight for me while you were presenting. First of all, you spoke about curiosity amplifier, and I loved every second of it because it's it. You spot it. Motivation is the key for our learners. If they're not motivated, they're not going anywhere. And the thing also, the extra thing that you said that to me, it's major, is the fact that you said that we don't just have to look around, but actually see what is around us and explore and listen to the sounds and really look in front of us instead of, walking past and not taking the right attention, putting the right attention to what we see. And this is where the magic happens. I've got chills. Oh my God. And here is where the magic happens, because you can actually make a difference and you could create magic from something kind of banal, like the middle of a street, for example. But then you had you were the luckiest girl because of the job you do, and you went everywhere. And these places, I'm so jealous, let me tell you, because you had the opportunity to visit all that, and you were very brave as well, because I believe it's not easy to go there and do the job you do, because then you have to be very, for you everything it's easy. But I'm thinking about me going there in the middle of the wild nature, and I'm saying no, 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 no. So thank you so much for doing that on my behalf, so I can experience and see and witness what you saw and experience. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was just
That's
thank you. Oh my God.
so. as a thank you of people attending this webinar as well, and I'll just put these on the screen. So we've created a pop-up landing page, which is where people can access 360 videos that you've chosen to share. And people will be able to view these with VR headsets because the link is there on the landing page to use them with Meta. Should we give everyone a flavor of what these look like? I'm really glad I didn't show these before, because it would have spoiled your wonderful presentation. So I'm just going to click on here and show people that it's going to go to the immersive encounters. Which one would you like me to show first, Elaine? Should we have a look at those beautiful painted puppies?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so the link will be in the email that people will get after the webinar. It's actually on the slides as well. So when you go into the link, you'll be able to click on this slide and a little arrow here. So talk us through the wild dog puppies here.
Yeah, so these were amazing. This was just before their rally. So they're very lively at this point, and then I placed it outside the vehicle, lowered down the camera, and you can hear them squeaking. It's lovely. And they noticed something new in their environment, like straight away. It's so interesting to see how different animals react to seeing something new in the landscape. Some are very curious and want to explore and find out more. This was the beginning of the destruction, so then it was all gone. But they were very, very curious puppies. Yeah.
I love those sounds. I think you said it, sound is only half the story. And quite often we see 360 images without audio, without the sounds. And, you can take a 360 image with your phone, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it's also easy to capture audio, isn't it? But how often do we not capture the audio? So that's a really nice reminder of the importance of multimodality that we talk a lot about. But when sound is actually added to that 360 image or 360 video, how it can really bring it to life.
Yeah, absolutely. It is about like bringing all those senses in, right, and trying to engage on that, and that's what makes it feel so much more embodied.
So now let's go to the wild elephants of Okavango, and this.
Oh wow!
There's two of them coming right up. For this, I camouflaged the camera amongst some like kind of dry grass. So it appears the elephant didn't notice the camera at all, but it may have. Who knows? It was quite busy eating there, and it came right up and right over. It sort of turns there, so it could have. And in this region, they've got the highest density of African elephants. So it's amazing to see them, and you can feel them kind of moving around the floor there, crunching.
Yeah, I can imagine the earth kind of trembling with the footsteps and those branches crackling as well. Absolutely incredible. And then the third video, which I think really highlights the distribution of the water systems that you showed us from the YouTube video as well, is the hippo pool. And this is dawn over the hippo pool, which is just phenomenal.
So this was just early in the morning, surprisingly quite fresh at that time. And the hippos were home here. They loved being here during the day, but at night they'd come out of the water and they would explore around and go for a snooze. Hippos you don't want to get too close to at all. And there are other animals coming in and around this water sources. There's a whole different species of birds, beautiful birds around there, and other reptiles as well. And the light was just amazing at this spot.
Incredible. So we've got these exclusively available so that people can use these as the context for learning. And I think what you've highlighted as well so far is that, it doesn't need to be an experience where you've got the final kind of destination. It can be somewhere local. And how often do people not explore their localities with that kind of lens? So these can be local projects as well. But these are being made available for people to use so that they can be that kind of final destination. Or, excuse me, I just got back from a trip myself, and I think I've ended up on the plane. So Claudia has come up with some amazing resources to help educators scaffold these experiences and then turn them into project-based learning activities. So we're going to come on to talk about those in a second. But what I did think was really helpful as well is just to remind people that I know that can you give us a bit more information about the camera that you use to take those 360 VR experiences?
Was that me? Sorry.
Yeah.
So use a different range of cameras, and there's new cameras now coming onto the market all the time, depending on whether you're looking for, like, from a virtual tour, if you want like gigapixel quality, or if it's a film, you want things to load quickly on a mobile. It's considering like all these factors. And if it's going to be like VR headset first viewing, or like true VR, or if you're looking for it to be like work fast on a mobile, those are like the choices. So yeah, the cameras from like DSLRs for virtual tours to like 360 cameras with 2 fisheye lenses on each side.
Like this one.
Exactly, yeah. There's a full range of them. And to the other kind of like larger setups with multi lenses around them as well.
So if a teacher's starting out from scratch though, and maybe they've got some iPads in the classroom as a device mix, or maybe they're working with older students, and I know that there's a bit of tension about using personal devices, but I personally think this is a really nice way of using a personal device for learning and teaching, which is an authentic use. I think it really helps if young people can see how their devices can be used appropriately in education as well. I'm a big believer in that. So there is this, which is the ThingLink Pano to 360. So if you don't have a 360 camera, you can get started with a mobile phone or an iPad, for example, or an Android tablet. So you can take a panoramic image, upload that into ThingLink, and it will turn it into a photosphere by subtly using some gradients for the tops and the bottoms. And it's not going to be anywhere near the quality that we've just seen from your work, Elaine, but it is a step on the path to kind of get
going. It's a good start.
There used to be the Google Street View camera app, which is where you had to like take all the pictures with and stitch it together. And Google deprecated that. I'm not sure why, but ThingLink stepped up and said, well, if it's gone, we'll make an alternative solution for people to just get their feet on the ladder of creating 360 images, which are true photospheres. And just to let you know as well that we've published a blog this last week. This is actually from Henry, who's in the ThingLink team. He's published a nice article on how to take good 360 photos as well. You'll get all the links to these things in the email afterwards, and they're linked on the deck. But Claudia, you've created the most amazing resources to help scaffold these experiences, building on some of Elaine's recommendations. So would you like to take us through the resources that you've built?
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen.
Move mine. There we go.
Thank you so much. There you go. Okay.
There you
go. Okay. So, when you're a beginner, even teachers don't know it all. So they kind of have to learn as well. So I tried to lend a hand to help teachers to create the perfect expeditions, and so to scaffold students to achieve their potential. So here you've got a selection of objectives: goal, lesson plan, phase 1, 2, up to phase 4, then why not to go the extra mile and then to develop multimodality that is so important for our students, and of course assessment that can be formative or summative. So the goal of this presentation is to basically to help students to create the perfect expedition. So you need to choose the target audience. Sorry, my English is leaving me. You need to select the tools and explain your students how to use the tools. And then here you've got a surprise. There's the me of the past, like with like trying to talk, but I stopped her, where I basically talk about how I would prepare lessons. I'm a teacher of English, so at the end of the day, I do that every day, even with my teachers, because I'm a teacher trainer. So I try to scaffold and give like an highlight of the things that they're, are best to create these kind of experiences. So I talk materials, I talk pre-teach vocabulary, and I talk sentence starters. Then there you've got like different phase. So you've got this phase, you choose the theme and the place, you define the mission. So Elaine was talking amazingly about the fact that it doesn't have to be, something very, very special. It can be even something that is right in front of you, but you feel motivated talking about. So what you do, you choose your theme, you choose your place, you define the mission, 2 or 3 short sentences. So what is your objective? What would you like to take away from this experience? And then, of course, you need to motivate and encourage students to connect personally to the place or the topic for higher engagement. Well, this is another way of teaching. In Italy, this is kind of hard because we love, less cathedratic lessons. This is another way of creating magic. And I know that a lot of Italian teachers do that. That's why I encourage them to, to follow these steps. And then, of course, you capture the image, like we said, with a simple phone, for example, and then you use ThingLink Pano to 360 to create magic. Of course, you need to collect information and media, and this is amazing because you actually browse the internet to create the perfect information. You need to be concise, but at the same time, you need to be efficient and effective in collecting all information. And here I put also teacher tip, like of a language scaffold if needed, because of course teachers of English, hello, what else if not scaffolding? Then you've got phase 3, upload and add hotspot, and here the teacher will explain how to use ThingLink effectively and how to add hotspots, and the importance of the strategic places where hotspots are placed, because you cannot put, I wouldn't be able to put a hotspot onto an elephant. What's the meaning of that? It doesn't make sense. Whereas here, you understand there is a sequence that you have to, to follow. And therefore, when you finish all that, you publish and present. And of course, metacognition, reflection and self-assessment. What did I learn? What was fun or challenging? What would I improve next time? Kind of an exit ticket to make our students aware of their potential and what they could do better next time, maybe. And then why not is another extra activity that I suggested, like a collaborative expedition, a language integration, audio narration. I let you read everything because this is going to be included in the mail. And of course, if you want to create an amazing digital portfolio with your creation, well, that's another value that normally you wouldn't be able to do it with any other tool than ThingLink, really. So plus, I'm talking multimodality. So I give hints and tips for beginner students, stronger students, and of course, language support and collaboration that is essential in these kind of projects. As for assessment, I talk about formative, that is to say, I'm gonna check if my ThingLink is good. So my students, did you put, so that you got kind of a checklist to follow through. So did you put information correctly? Did you put hotspots in the right places? Is your language accurate? Did you use media, audio, video, PDF, whatever you want to enrich the experience of the others for, for what you created? Is this okay? Is this something that you could do? You could have done more to achieve your potential, for example, what you're going to change next time and stuff like that. And once you do that, you're ready to, to let your students experiment. But then, of course, you want to scaffold even when they're doing that independently. So I created the guide for students. So here you've got your goals. So what do you have to do? Design your own interactive visual expedition to explore or explain a place, an idea, or a topic. And then, of course, you discover and plan. Pick a place you choose. You are in charge of your own learning and of the learning of your classmates. And then, of course, you have to be you have to have a simple language but effective. My expedition is about, or this place is important to me because, etc., etc. And then you follow the path, discover and plan. Decide what you want others to learn from your expedition. Discover what you can learn, because you teach but you learn at the same time. So this is a win-win situation. And of course, as I said before, write 2 or 3 short sentences to describe your goal. I'm thinking about different kind of tuition. I'm thinking of an independent one where students can browse around, go around the class and create their activities on the spot. Of course, they need to use their phone outside school because they have to photograph things and create 360 pictures. But at the same time, they can all collaborate together in class, of course, if you got time, or they can do that independently in small groups. They can capture the image, they can collect the information, and of course, decide what is fake news and what isn't. And then, of course, deliver that to their public, that is to say, their peers. And then, of course, you upload everything you created in ThingLink, and of course, you organize and design. And at the end, you share and think. So metacognition as well. As you see, I created something parallel for teachers and students so that you could follow along. And of course, you can publish and present, and you can reflect and self-assess on what you did. And yes, that's it. And of course, if you want to see more, I just put extra fun tips and tricks, because you never know, maybe you've got learners that are eager to go the extra mile. So maybe you want to create a shared class expedition by combining different ThingLinks, or maybe you can go the extra mile creating an extra grammar and vocabulary hotspot for language practice. You can record yourself. You can record even your own diary while you experience all the adventures. So you have the step by step on how you create everything, and you document it, as if it was a portfolio of your development. And then you just have fun and be yourself. That is the best way possible to learn and achieve your potential. Thank you. I can't. Can you hear this?
You're on mute.
I switched it off because I was coughing. Claudia, that's fantastic. So those resources are going to be so beneficial for people. We put them in the chat as well. And you give them a really nice step-by-step guide to how these can be used as project-based learning. But also I was thinking how interdisciplinary these are as well. I mean, imagine if you were going to go to the Okavango and you were going to go and see these amazing painted puppies at the end of the experience. You could actually, use this to think about how would we get there? What's the temperature like? What's the currency? What's the time zone? What's the carbon footprint of getting there?
And most importantly, what do I put in my backpack not to get sunburned, or because I'm thinking, flies and sunburn and all the things that Elaine so gracefully avoided to tell us, but I think that she experienced to create amazingness. Right, Elaine? Right?
Very, very true. Yeah, there's the jungles for sure. You are facing some things that are very deadly. Absolutely. Helen is your best friend also.
Also, understanding the political landscape of where you're going, what other they're just so interdisciplinary, and I'm sure that any teacher can find any aspect of these to weave their own learning outcomes into them, whether it's numeracy, literacy, health and well-being. But most importantly, what I loved about both your presentations is the agency that you can give to students to have control over the multimedia that they choose to take and why they've chosen that media. That's really important in terms of understanding the metacognition side as well. Absolutely phenomenal. We've got a lovely comment from Lisa. Please can I have a puppy for Christmas? I think she wants one of those puppies.
Exactly.
And Kate Willoughby said thank you for these. So lots and lots of amazing resources there to start people off. Any other last tips of how you would start getting going with something like this, Elaine? What would be your top tips to how do you first start?
Yeah, I think it's just about getting outdoors and paying attention to what really interests you and the stories that you're interested in telling. And it's just, out there observing, and then you begin to find like what it is that you're curious about. It's hard to know until you start.
Sounds great. Absolutely. Curious. I love that. You mentioned that before. It was curiosity before the content, which I thought was really, really valuable. And Claudia, what would be your advice for how people can get started?
Don't be afraid to go out there and try, because it's not easy at first if you're not used to do that. But then, I always say better together. So if we gather with, some colleagues or some students together, and you try and you got roles, so you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you try together and have fun, because that's the most important thing. And then decide together what the goal is going to be. I think that this is job number one for greatness, really. So yeah, don't be afraid of trying new things and go out there. Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. And the students will probably surprise you as well. I think they'll take to these kinds of activities. And what we've known more recently with the webinars that we've done, it's how to create powerful moments of insight and memorable experiences. And it's those experiences that stay with young learners. And I think if I was a young learner involved in these kinds of experiences, it would definitely stay with me. So we've got a couple of last things just to wrap up, just to make sure that everyone's aware. Just before we had our last webinar, we launched our XR Expert course, which you're all welcome to do. It's a self-paced course, and it just explores in a little bit more depth some of the concepts that we've been talking about, whether it's VR, XR, immersive learning, multimodality, how to make sure things are accessible, and some of the tools that are available for you to do this. Simply click on the link that's there and you'll be able to go through this. And we do have a micro credential for you at the end, a certificate, which you can keep and add to your PD portfolio. So that's there for you to use. And the other thing that I thought, and it was really interesting, Elaine, because you made reference to this as well, and that is that it's really important to make sure that we are using evaluated methods in our activities as well. And you highlighted some important aspects of research in your presentation as well. So just in case anybody wants to see some of the research around VR, there's a really nice collection here of peer-reviewed, which has been collated by my colleague Andreas. And these are incredible studies that are completely impartial and independent from universities around the world who have taken some of the ideas and concepts that Elaine has presented to you so beautifully, and they've evaluated them, peer-reviewed them, and they're published as well. So we wanted to make sure that you had access to this library of resources as well. So we've got some really lovely comments coming in, really useful and inspiring. Elaine, you have been thoroughly inspiring, and I just hope that so many educators get to view this webinar and just see some of the ways that they can bring about that enhanced connection to real world places, real world spaces, and keep ourselves grounded. I think that's the message that I'm taking from all of this as well. Keeping ourselves grounded in the real world when everything seems to be quite fast paced and AI driven at the moment, that it's okay to work at that intersection of real world wildlife, tech and art. And I think you've brought that together so beautifully. So thank you so much for being part of our webinar. And we hope that you'll come back and do another webinar with us at some point as well. Really nice comments coming through. Looking forward to sharing these resources with our students. So thank you for bearing with me whilst I've snuffled my way through. But we hope that you found this really engaging. And on behalf of the whole ThingLink team, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you to Elaine. Thank you to Claudia for making those amazing resources as well. And there's an email coming out to you all with all of those links. So you've got lots to take away, including access to those 360 videos, which you can use as your final destination or your context for learning. And yes, there's a link to the evaluation and feedback examples as well. You'll get those in the email. So all that's left for me to say is to say thank you very much. Elaine, any parting words from you?
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to join you today. And yeah, if there's any questions as well to follow up with, happy to get in touch and to chat with you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, it's been all our pleasure. And Claudia, any parting words from you?
Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure and an honor as usual. So I'll see you soon, and thank you.
Take care, everyone. And we'll see. We'll probably have another webinar maybe in the next couple of weeks, which will be an end of year wrap up. So everyone will be invited to wear their holiday jumpers or their holiday hats or something.
Yay!
Take care, everyone. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.